Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. Myself, Ishika Narula, your host for the day. Just to give a brief introduction, Viraj sir is an Indian origin architect and an entrepreneur based in Madrid. He has graduated from the MMCA University of Pune with an Award of Excellence in 2010 and did his post-graduation from Universidad de Alcalá, Madrid in Advanced Architectural Project and City Planning in 2013. His professional experience and research has been diverse with architectural projects right from commercial, residential, towers, sports, cultural to transport buildings mainly from India, Spain, and China. Talking about his design practice, he has always been inspired from nature. Thanks to his working experience with a very creative and innovative studio of Madrid at an early stage of his career, where he could mold himself to understand the importance of a thoughtful and exciting practice, which included design thinking and strategic planning into a bionic architecture, resulting into creation of avant-garde yet sustainable designs and implementation for today's lifestyle. In 2017, he was honored to receive an award for an international architectural competition, Unfuse the Black Touch, along with his Spanish architect colleague, Jon Arteta. Today, Viraj sir runs his own design studio in Madrid called the Wow Designers, along with his Spanish partner architect, Jose Gardia Domingue. The Wow Designers is an Indian European multidisciplinary studio that combines the experience and knowledge of both the markets from Asia and Europe with the ability to generate high value design proposals. Further to which, Viraj sir holds an extensive vision of learning, sharing, mentoring, and participating in bringing a sustainable change among the societies between the East and the West by connecting them. Through architecture, design, art, design thinking, multidisciplinary methodologies, business innovation, research and analysis, effective communication, and international networking and collaborations, his hobbies and interests are very well related to daily work practices like creativity and designing, brainstorming ideas, engaging and learning with nature, traveling, wellness, writing, languages, and connecting with people. Now, without any delay, I would like our director, Madam Dr. Gauri Shirkar, ma'am, to welcome Viraj sir.
Thank you, Ishika. Dear Viraj, a very warm welcome on behalf of School of Architecture, Urban Development and Planning and Symbiosis Skills and Professional University. It's indeed a very impressive CV, I must say. This is just a glimpse of it, and I've gone through your entire CV, so I know how impressive it is, and it is indeed a pleasure to have you here with us on this platform, and looking forward to many more such interactions with you. Without any further delay, because we all are really excited to know about your journey. So please take over, and once again, a very warm welcome.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Firstly, I thank Symbiosis University. I thank Gauri, ma'am, that letting me, present today my journey from Pune to Madrid. That is how we are calling it, and it is an honor and it is a pleasure that I could present my journey. It is always good to look back, because I didn't had in last 10 years to look back and what I've done and what all has been. It has been a very unconscious process, but now with the presentation today, I can show it to you, consciously now. So that is also been a good review for myself, and I hope through my presentation today, all the students, all the new gen of India, I will be sharing my experience, my thoughts, my journey, and in a way of professional as well as a personal way of going how the journey was from India to Europe. So I hope this presentation will help you guys to understand a bit about exactly what is there outside, what is there after graduation, and all these facts. So thank you so much once again. I'm going to share my screen.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Everybody can see my screen? Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay. So, as we call it, from Pune to Madrid. So this was the journey, and also I just put it in the other way around, also from an architect to an entrepreneur. So this is something which is an exciting way of looking at architecture today, not only just as an architect, but also the other side of the coin, which we have to understand here when we are into the profession. So this is something which I would like to explain you, take this journey for having both side of the coin. Okay, so the first part here, what I wanted to talk about here is the circle of my journey. So one, obviously, as I said, one is a professional journey and one is a personal journey, and I think both of them are equally important. They are parallel to each other, which at some point, helps from one point to the another to travel. So first, I would say obviously goes the education, there where you obviously take the degree, you learn, you get the theoretical knowledge, so that is obviously an important fact. And I always combine education with traveling, because I would say traveling has been in other form of education for me all through my journey until now. And I think this is a very, very important university, I would say, kind of a stuff. So that is like the traveling, and then the experience, of course, that whatever experience, practical knowledge we gather on our journey. So that has been an important fact to understand, how you apply that theoretical knowledge, what you have gained, and what you learn more. Accompanied with communication, of course. So communication is another important fact today, that how we communicate, how we move, how we talk, how we, interact, how we present, how we deal with architecture today in that level. So that is something is an important way of having experience with communication. That was also a part of my journey, which was very important. Then the third point was research. Um, I think research is something which is a very important fact of taking it ahead from theoretical, practical to something which is innovative, which has to be researched, which has to be dealt with. So this has been also a very important part of my journey, and then also I have been included into my career as a fact of reaching to a practice today. So that also I'll talk about. Sorry, this is just okay. And then obviously, when we talk about research, what is important is being comprehensive. What is important is understanding the situation, understanding the fact of architecture and its responsive way of dealing. So understanding has been a very important fact that we need to, obviously it's a life learning process, but then understanding is always a cure for it. Then sustainability, of course. Sustainability today, globally, worldwide, is an important fact to respect. We need to deal with the ecosystem. We need to, respect wisely the energies, how we do it, and also I'll also talking about that. Accompanied with responsiveness. So responsive architecture is something which is hand in hand with sustainability. If you want to really bring out that change or that, so that is something I would say as an important fact of sustainability with responsiveness. Then we have the idea. So ideas is an important fact where we need to sit down, we need to jot down, okay, what has it been until now? How we can, take it further, how we can think about it, how we can bring an innovative way of approach, which can eventually make it an innovative way of being architecture. So somehow, guys, this has been, as I call it, the two parts of the circle, two parts of the coin, as you can metaphorize it. So this has been a professional journey, that education, experience, research, sustainability ideas, and then on my personal level, it has been combined very well and balanced on the other side of the coin, which is traveling, communication, understanding, being responsive, and then obviously being innovative. So this has been somehow the part of the architecture to entrepreneurship. So these things, I'll just brief about them in the later presentation, considering all these points. Going ahead, talking about my education. So I was graduated from the Pune University, the MMCA college, back in 2010, followed by my post-graduation, which was in Madrid in 2013 from the Universidad de Alcalá. So it was a beautiful way of perceiving the studies or perceiving the theoretical knowledge, I would say in that case, from India and then to Europe. So it was a big change from one place to another, but then that has always helped in the form of experience also. Then talking about experience, one fact is that my father, being an interior designer himself, so I had somehow the option of opting and having the experience since I was since I was studying architecture by then. So then I used to somehow be in the firm. I used to go with him on the side. So that all helped me to somehow get that theoretical knowledge, also accompanied with the practical knowledge on the field. So that has been my first, I would say, experience as always. Since child also I have been, my father has been talking about it. I used to go on site visits with him sometime. So I think that has been one of the aspects, important aspects for me with the experience. Then of course, in 2008, 2009, our college was also having external projects, and where they used to select few students where they could really do a project. So this was my, I would say, after being in the university, my having my first project, so that was done in Lonavala, that we had done with one of my professor at the universities. So both of us, we had done this project for Lonavala. So that was another practical experience, which was I think a nice initiative at that time my college had, doing projects for real, with students and with professors. So that was again something nice. Then my internship, which I did during my academical course in India, was with Shirish Berry. So as you must have known Shirish Berry sir, so he has been a great mentor to me. He has always been an inspiration for me. And I think, again, as we have been talking about, my journey of architecture has been very close to the nature, very close to what we call it a bionic architecture, what we call it a vernacular architecture. So this part of my practice, being with such a big architect and such a sweet person, so this has been a very important part of my journey with Shirish sir, and I think this has been a key factor also being in India at that point of time. Then after I passed out in 2010, for 6 months, I had a opportunity to work with Access Paradigm Spaces, is also from Pune. They had it was a combined studio with architecture, interior design, corporate interiors. But what I liked about this studio or architectural department, that they give me all the liberty as a young architect, as a architect, who always come with dreams. We want to have all our ideas coming through. So my boss at that moment, so he could give me all that flexibility as well as that freedom to explore, to bring my I would say academical kind of a freedom and that innovativeness which we are young, and then how we hold it upon to accessibility. So that was also a good journey, a small journey, but I would like to say that this was also an important journey for me. Here again, I would like to say that it's not about always going to a big firm and always going to that big scale, because eventually it depends on what work you're going to do, what experience you're going to take from there, how much flexibility and freedom you're going to take there. So that is also very important. Here I would like to mention. Then of course, so one side of the coin was in India, and then after that my journey was uh, have been started in Spain in that case. And then of course this was my first break, I would say, abroad. And then I had the opportunity to work with Cervera and Pios architects back in Madrid. So this was I would say the key factor until now in my journey, because that was a changing point for me. That was another scale of experience and a lot of emotions and a lot of things to learn. And it was just about pure learning and experimentation in that case also, because anyhow some of the part was in the studio about research, and then I think that was an important part, and this has to be done in the early stage, which I'm really thankful to in that case to the architects there. So that was the thing. Then 2016 was a time when we started our own practice, the Wow Designers. So that was the beginning of the new chapter, as an entrepreneur, as an independent architect. So that was something which was curious for me. So let's talk about research and analysis. This is an important fact which played in my career, as I said. So as I told before, that when I was working at the studio in Madrid, Server and Pio's architects, so they were doing bionic architecture. So what is bionic architecture? It is something related to the nature. It was something that my mentor, my boss at that moment, Javier Pios and Rosa Cervera. So Javier Pios, he was always a keen architect, always concerning with the nature. So if you look back in the history into Spanish architecture, also when we see Antonio Gaudi, when we see Santiago Calatrava, in that cases, so Spain has this a special journey of architects which has always been looking into nature for inspiration. And I think Server and Pio's architects were one of them architects which also took it ahead on that scale, on that level. So bionic architecture was about studying the growing mechanism in the nature and how you could apply into architecture. So this was very interesting for me, coming all the way from an Indian university and an Indian background. So this was something which is not often seen in India at that point of time, at least. So this was a very, very, very important learning for me also, and one of the reasons that I opted also to come here, because this was something which was I looking for, was something which is extremely innovative and extremely new in the way of experimentation learning. So this was something which we were doing, for example, in the studio. This part also, in the same studio when we're there, we had a project from the Spanish government. So this was related to the algae. So here, when we talk about renewable energy, when we talk about sustainable energy, so here, I mean, it's not about typical thing like solar energy and the wind energy and photovoltaic energy. Okay, fine. That is we're coming from that. But then what was exciting for me was when we talk about a new form of energy which could be produced. So that was from algae. So the I would say kind of innovation was done obviously by a biological and a pharmaceutical company at that point of time. But then our studio was responsible that how you could do research and analysis and how you could apply into architecture, apply into urban planning. So this was something, that part of my journey has been also a keen learning with this new energy, new technology, 100% sustainable, because it did not even had CO2 gases emissions. So that was, I think, a good learning. And I think the project is has been still under research, and it still has been applying from one skill to another. So this has been another important, I would say, experience and research. So when I was at the university doing my master's, so every year they used to take one city around the world which could jot down some problems which are on an urban scale, and so on. So at that moment, luckily it was India and it was Mumbai. So there we could have the experience of how we can do a project, or how we can study the urban setting of a city. And I think Mumbai being one of the most extreme and one of the most clustered cities, so this was something which was completely a new experience, especially for my colleagues at the class, because I was the only Indian in the class, and rest of them were Europeans or Americans, and so on. So this was a very good experience for them and for me as well, because it was another perspective from the other university, that how they would study. So at that point of time, we did a research. We did intervene with the kind of a research and investigation on urban scale, with economic, with social, with environmental graphics, especially related to the Dharavi slums. And I think this was something was not only related to Mumbai, because obviously the scale was going up to any other unplanned city of the world, and Mumbai was just a case study. But then, that what we did a solution, what we did an analysis, and then how we made some solutions through our obviously thesis projects. So this book, as we see here, Mumbai Reciclado, in Spanish is Mumbai Recycled. So this was something an important chapter also in my career. It was in collaboration with the X Studio Mumbai from the Columbian University. So it was a important factor for me at that scale. And today also, in my masters, in my research, I do still take it ahead from there. The unplanned cities. One day probably I'll be doing my doctorate on that, which is unplanned cities of the world, and so on. Yeah, that has been an important part of the journey. And then obviously research and analysis when it comes to our own studio. So we have been applying all these things that in this today's time, like for example, whether it comes to being for architecture, whether it comes for home staging, whether it comes to art, that is art intervention in architecture. This is a very new kind of a concept that we have been developing in our studio. And the third thing was about the turnkey properties kind of a thing, which is about the pandemic and the post-pandemic situation in Europe. So this has been something that, as I talk about, that we need to keep an eye open. We need to jot down the problems. We need to analyze. We need to, research. We need to look for opportunities on that scale. So this is something, again, a part of research and analysis that we have been also coming up with solutions, because it's not only about researching, it's also about applying the analysis or applying the end conclusions into your practice. So that is also, which is very important, and I'm sure that we will agree upon that. Many of our senior faculties at the university today will agree on that we need to apply our doctorate in the practicing field also. Okay, so this was about the research. Then I'll talk about sustainability and renewable energy here. um, Again, that, as I said, that I was very closely working with all these nature related architecture, learning from there. So one of the things was important with the environmental conditions that we need to respect when we are into architecture. It is fundamental, because the site where you're going to do the project it's a fundamental thing. So this is something I say that it's important. Then obviously the ecosystem where the living thing and the environment, where it lives together. So ecosystem is a fact that has to be always respected, as you will see in the projects ahead that I'll talk about them. Okay. And then we talk about energy efficiency there. Obviously, this is today in today's world, especially in Europe, we talk about so much about generation of energy. And now, like few years back, it was only about generation of energy. And today, the fact is about how do you transport that energy? So transporting the energy is one of the biggest challenges that we have today when it comes to architecture, or even that for urban scale. So I think energy efficiency, architecturally speaking, that if the building is itself energy efficient, it's well enough to handle that point when it comes to sustainability. Okay. And then we have the building material. So one of the facts we also need to understand that every building eventually is made of a material, and largely speaking, it is something which is to be handled during the type of construction. That is one point where we have this carbon impact. And then obviously later is the maintenance of the building. So I think the building material, we need to be very, very specific. We need to use innovative materials. We need to use green materials. We need to use a low carbon emission materials. So this is something I think an important fact, that only about building material, is an important fact that I learned through my career. And I think this is an important thing. Then we talks about the toxics reduction. Again, coming back to the same point of material. So toxics reduction is very important. As I said, when the building is constructed, when the structure is done, the major fact, what happens, the toxic generation for that process, for that building of that material. So that is something we need to check on, we need to avoid. A small detail, but it's a very important detail, and hence that can bring the change or the difference there. And obviously, if all these things are at place, then obviously the building is under a low maintenance for a lifetime. And I think this is something which we talk about sustainability. The high maintenance thing, obviously it has its own cost and it has its own emissions. And I think so as you see the environmental conditions here, are extremely important, and that is the reason I call it a responsive architecture. So in my journey, it has been a responsive architecture, and I would recommend you guys, to think on these conditions as well whenever you're having a fact of a new project, or whenever you're learning or applying into your day-to-day life also. Then we have the traveling and experience. So as I said before, another teacher for me, another experience, experiential learning that I would call it, has been my traveling and has been my experience up there. Why is it important? Let's see on that. Why is it important? Before, obviously, we know that it broadens your horizon. So that is something I would say an important fact about it. That architect is something that we need to go beyond. We need to broaden our horizon, because there are so many things, there are so many facts, there are so many different scales, there are so many different kind of subjects that we need to handle in our career, in our course, in our practical stuff. So I think this is very important, that why I need to travel, because also of self exploration. Here it's more, I'm talking about wellness. Here I'm talking about being at a good mental state. And I think self-exploration is something, is like a meditation for me, at least. And I think when you travel, when you are there out by all yourself, you start to understand yourself. And I think this is an important fact of knowing that a self-exploration journey is very important, especially for an architect. I always say that, because our profession is much more extended, I would say, as a wellness thing, where you can then come into design, when you come into design thinking. So self exploration is very important. Know yourself, and I think one of the ways, it's through traveling. Then of course, that this is without a doubt that we call about boost your confidence. So the confidence here is an important fact about it. Coming from India, I think still in India we have a lot of I would say rumors, or I would say a kind of I don't know, like a deja vu kind of stuff, that where people are always talking about their confidence and the low confidence and this and that. So that, I think that part is something, again, is very important in the journey as an architect, that I have understood that boosting your confidence comes up when you're by yourself, when you're traveling, in my case. So that has been also an important journey for me. Improves communication. As I said, again, very important. Communication is an extremely important fact, because this obviously connects you to the world, this connects you to the people, this connects you to architecture, this connects you to the urban scale. So I think communication, it has been a very important fact for me, and hence we need to understand the importance of communication in architecture. Okay. Then it enhances tolerance. So tolerance is very important. As I said, that it broadens your horizon, it makes you a wiser person, because then you know how to hear people, you know how to understand people, you need to listen to other cultures, you need to have a non-biased mind, in this case. So I think enhances tolerance is very important, especially for an architect, because I think extremeness is not something which an architect holds. And I think this has an important learning also through that practice. And obviously with that, you obviously create network. So as I said before also, that international networking is a very important fact today. We live on a global situation. Today, a few years back, it was maybe a difficult task, but today, yes, we need to network. We need to, have that international contacts. So this is something also with traveling that I have experienced, that I have come through. Today, I have friends all around the world. So I think this has been an important fact for me. I've been traveling for more than 30 countries now. So I think, and I will keep that, because this is something, one of my teachers, or one of my way of doing things. So that I call it experiential learner, and that has been also key factor in me. Then we talk about communication and understanding. So communication, when we talk about that, language as a tool. So language, why is it important? Because I can talk about myself. Because I think when you come to a foreign country, when you come to your outside your habitat, outside your local environment. So I think this is something which is very important. I need to understand that communication, as I said, is important, and through a local language, it is something that you need to you can get through. You can go beyond. You can understand people. You can understand other things of the coin. So this is something, an important tool for me. I personally Talking about foreign languages, obviously English and then Spanish I speak, then French. Actually, I learned French when I was back in Pune. I learned from actually Symbiosis University French, because I lived also in Paris for a while. So yeah, so that also helped me. And obviously today I'm also learning German. So I think, please, if you guys also have the chance to learn a foreign language or whatever, it is a very important, tool, I would say, as I say, for you to, go beyond that horizon. Then we talk about cultural awareness. Obviously, cultural awareness is very important fact today. Coming back, that we talk about internationalization, we talk about globalizations, and I think this is something which is an important fact about it. That cultural awareness is an important fact. We talk about comprehensive. So comprehensiveness is important in a way of understanding people, understanding the facts. Then intercultural competence. So this is again hand in hand. So coming on to the same grounds of understanding. Then lend an ear, what we call it. So as an architect, you need to lend an ear, you need to listen to people, you need to be comprehensive with people, because eventually architects, we are a problem solver. We need to, have the mind and the soul, to solve things, and that comes through problem solving attitude. So I think communication and understanding here has been an important role for me into the carrying an attitude of a problem solving attitude. And that is the reason I would say an architect needs to be wiser and sensible in all these cases. We need to keep our ears open. Okay. Then we talk about ideas and innovation. Here I will talk about ideas and innovation because a problem need, we need to jot down on the problem need here, because again, when there is a analysis, when there is a research, we need to come out to look, okay, what is the problem out there, and when there is a problem, when there's a need and an opportunity. Okay. Then we talk about the purpose and the motive. So here again we talk about that we need to have that motive for the opportunity. Then we need to ideate it. Okay. And then all this process, as we call it, design thinking. Okay. And then eventually we have a proposal. So what does that mean? That we have an idea and then we go for the line of an innovation, and that is what makes us independent. And I think this is an important fact about having ideas and having the mind of an innovative thinking, is because that makes you independent, and that was again my journey, that what made me independent. Then we talk about entrepreneurship, again coming back to the scale from the last one. What is entrepreneurship? Entrepreneurship is basically defining oneself. That is something we look for. That is what, at least I'm talking professionally. So I think this is something, is again a journey of yourself. Then autonomy is again something on a individual level. Autonomy is very important for that freedom, for that flexibility, and hence I think autonomy is again an important fact from there. Then we have ethics and principles. Here also, this is a very personal case, but I think each one of you will agree that ethics and principles are something which is fundamental for any kind of practice, and hence it's important. Then satisfaction, again a very important fact, that when we work, when we do things, we need to have that satisfaction. We have to have that inner peace, and I think if we don't have that inner peace, it's very difficult to work into this field, and hence that brings you satisfaction. Then leadership, what holds the whole team, that holds the whole project. As you know, that architect, we are the top of the pyramid, so we need to learn about leadership. We need to know about working in co-working. We need to think about all these facts, to hold upon, to make understand the role of other person. It's very important, and hence obviously when we have all this in place, we call it a progress, because it's not about success, it's about progress, and hence I call this as a creation of value. So entrepreneurship for me is a creation of value. Okay. Then talking to about awards and scholarships. So in 2010, I had an award for excellence. Right after my university, I had designed an international airport at that moment for my thesis, and it was well appreciated, for which also I won an award. Then I had two scholarships back in Madrid. One was with internship, which was an internship during my master's, and the other one was about an experience through my research, which I talked about, Mumbai Recycle. So that was also a kind of a research for which I got a scholarship, and I think that was also an important thing. And then the one which I really appreciate is is the award for the Black Taj, so in 2017. So this was an important award for us as a studio. So I think these are some of the recognition that I would consider. Then talking about professional practice, let's go to the professional practice now. Okay. Um, so the professional practice, what we have is called the WoW designers here. I'll just brief you quickly through our. Mr. Jose Enrique, he's my partner in the studio. So he's a Spanish guy. He's from Madrid. He was my actually senior architect at my ex studio at Server and Pios Architects. So since day one, I remember since I was in Madrid, I used to carry very well with him, on a personal level, on a professional level, on an educational level, So I think, we had that connectivity, we had that wavelength matched since the beginning, since the beginning. And I think somehow since then, it has been a journey for us together as professionals. And then in 2016, as I said, when we started to work together, we were working as freelance architects at that moment. And then, that was a moment when we come together. So somehow Jose has been like a mentor to me. And also, today we share a lot of things in common. So I think that makes the right partner for me. And I think it doesn't matter where your partner is coming from, whether it's Indian, non-Indian, or whatever. What is important is the wavelength. Okay. And I think this has been an important binding in the career of me, and hence. So talking about the WoW designers, so WoW designers is an Indian European multidisciplinary studio which combines the experience, as we talked about before, for both the ends, the east and the west, with high value design proposals. I'll talk about what we are doing with services. Okay. Then our principles, as I said, the principles are very important. So we have 5 principles in the studio. One is quality service. It's very important that you serve quality at your work, because there is no stepping down, and I think that is a very important fact. And that fame what we have gained is through our quality service. So it's very important. Then personalized designs. I think every design is personalized, but sometimes you need to really get down to the detail. And when I say personalized, it also means research. It also means giving a unique solution for that problem. As I said, it's problem solving. Architecture is problem solving. Wow effect. So this is coming from, obviously, from our own way of thinking, that we need to give that wow effect in the spaces, in the design, in architecture, or in all kind of forms that I will show you, what services we have. So that is important, a wow effect, with that kind of a avant-garde design, I would say. And then green solution, what we call about sustainability and using innovative materials. So this is also something which is the fundamental when it comes to sustainability. And the last thing, we talk about the multidisciplinary team. So that is also an important thing, that we ourselves we are a multidisciplinary team. And apart from that, we always look for collaborations or team members, who are coming from multidisciplinary backgrounds, because that is an addition, that is an asset for our studio. And hence that reflects in our designs, that reflects in our ideology, that reflects in our methodology. And I think that what makes us a very different studio. And step by step, we are, every time we are, entering in a new phase, in a innovative phase. So that is also something which is an important thing. Then we talk about design services. So obviously the first service what we provide is the architecture service. So here we have been doing projects right from commercial, residential. We have done towers. We have been doing sports complexes. Today at this moment of our studio, we are having some important project, which is like with sports related project. So I think this is something which is very interesting. Then we have landscaping. So we have here, doing our projects basically for residential villas and houses. So I think landscaping is a completely different story, and I think that what makes us I would say in a natural way, flow in that is what our experience was with landscape. So we enjoy a lot doing landscaping, landscape projects. And I think that also is somehow it's much more of flexible, and it's much more I would say design wise, it is something that we don't have restrictions as much as compared to architecture, because you have rules, you have regulations, blah blah blah. But then landscaping is something that we don't have any rules, and that's what we like about it. So interior design, of course, we are doing interiors, residential, commercial, both. And then what we do always here is looking for that kind of a green spaces into the architecture, into interior designing. That is what we call it, and hence this has been one of the facts in interior designing, that is the green spaces. Then we talk about the graphic design. One of the important fact is that my partner, he's a very well nurtured with this part of the designing, which is graphic design, and hence I think we have that kind of a clientele today, that where we have this corporate imaging also for that, but or a high-end graphic design, what we do for them. Again, coming back to the designing part. And then we do product design. Product designing is something that we have recently started. Actually, in the pandemic, we have started. One of the researching fact that we had through the product designing was this. So I'll talk about that also. When it comes to research, we are designing some of the products for the for residential units, where we have a lot of people have this kind of a mental stress and a depression because of the pandemic and the lockdown and everything. So I think this was something which we came up with one of the product designing, that we need to do something to better interior spaces, better residential spaces, because today your home is your workplace, your residence, your communication. So I think it's very important. That is what we're working on that. And home staging is an innovative way of staging your homes. That is for a marketing strategy for selling your house or renting your house. So there's also something I think is very, very important that we're probably doing, an innovative way for Spain at least. Then art and photography. Art and photography is something I always believed in. I'm also an art exhibitor. So again, the fact coming from here is about how we can, bring art into architecture. So that is also something. Another day, maybe a lot of things are happening now. Another day, I'll tell you the innovative way we are approaching towards art into architecture. What is the importance of it, and why we're focusing on that. So another day I can talk more about that. And photography, obviously, combinedly comes with architecture, I would say, parallel. So now we talk about the architectural projects. So today I'm just gonna, because I think we're running out of time, so I'm gonna make it quick. But I'm just gonna talk today about architectural projects, basically. So that would be commercial, residential, towers. Then we have done some competitions. We have won some competitions. Then landscaping and the interiors. So this, then another day I can show you the other part of the project. So there are some selected projects what I would like to show you. So this was a project in Delhi, that what we had done, a commercial mall. And also the projects what we will see, obviously this is the project that we have done in the studio also, and also we have been working as a team when we're collaborating with other studios, we're collaborating with other architects and so on. So this was something, you will see a variety of projects that what we have been doing in our career. So this was, as I said, in Gurgaon, in Delhi. The commercial mall. The plot was a very, very narrow site, and hence the design, is governed by that. Spaces. Then we had this project of a golf course back in Pune as well. This was in a high-end society, a housing society, for that had this kind of golf thing. So this was a very interesting project for us, because here we had to merge. We would like to merge the building into the landscape. So this was an important fact, with the hotel there up there, which looks obviously like a golf ball. Obviously, the planning was for banquet and restaurants, and then hotel, and then we have the clubbing, and then all these social aspects as compared to the Indian culture, as we say. Then this was another sports city exhibition center, which was done for Mumbai. So here we had designed it as a golf stick, as you can see, but it's a building. And then this was something for a temporary structure. What we had to do it for some sort, we have using a tensile structure over there. Some of the views, and how the water body is flowing, and the interior spaces, how it combines with inside out and outside in. So this was something interesting about this project. And then this was a project in Dapper in Punjab. So this was a pharmaceutical company, which we had in the headquarters for them. An interesting project. The egg there, what you see is the auditorium for them. The spaces, and so this was inspired by the Om. That is what we had that point of time, because the owner of the company was into spirituality, and that is how one of the forms was, which we call, obviously governed by the site itself. One of the residential buildings in Spain, in Madrid, that we had done. Yeah. Then this was another villa that we had done in Chandigarh. So this was also based on a lotus petals. Okay, another I can give you a detailing about how the structure is and how what was the concept behind it. So yeah, this was on the villa. This was actually my first project, my parents' house. So this was a long time back. This was in 2008. Anyhow, so yeah, so this was one of the first projects, and yeah, evolution. So here we see another single housing that we had done also in Pune there at that time. Um, and then this was an important project for us, which is for China. This was again a villa. It was a hotel villa because it was a villa, but as a guest villa, what they used to use there. So it was in wetlands in Changshu. And then an important thing was this was coming from the local inspiration, that is bamboo from China. So an interesting design what we had come up with. So yeah, again, the structural detailing is also very interesting when we had come to the bamboo section cutting. So this was something, an interesting fact for us. Then we talk about towers, we talk about residential projects. This was back in Gurgaon in Delhi. Some of the towers, I'll give a quick glance through all the towers mostly, you know. So we have been doing experimentation with blocks, and we have been experimentation with vertical gardening, you know, how we can enhance those spaces, giving the light and ventilation from all the parts. Then, well, some of the typical was not is it's coming back from the inspiration from the European architecture there. But yeah, I mean, these are cluster towers. Then this was something which was interesting. Again, a kind of a how do I say? It's like a cocoon kind of a thing, which also uh, flees up with a bird. So this was an concept coming from there. Um, then we talk about the Twin Towers in Kolkata. So this was again an interesting project that we did. This was in condominium spaces that what they had, a hotel and a commercial spaces, you know. So that was very interesting. So if you see the structure, it has been inspired by the honeycomb, you know, the structure, and that was again a part of research that, as I said, that we used to do research on this kind of inspiration, that how we can take it from the nature, you know. So I think this was an interesting thing. And this was back in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. These were the towers that what we have proposed. And then, you know, this was a vertical gardening tower, which was used as a commercial, as a residential project for both of it. Okay. So this was something which was interesting at that point of time to understand that how tensile structures combined with glass, with a lightweight structure, how you can, you know, combine with the vertical gardens. That was something which we had come up with. And then obviously there's some commercial ones, very much trying different options at that point of time. So yeah, some of the options that we'd always like to present, because always the optional designs are also your designs, you know. So always I like to be proud of them as well. So yeah. Then this was I would say a very a skull kind of a skeleton kind of a structure, where we come up with a very thin concrete structures there. We had come up with this concept, and very interesting. This option also was. And then another residential thing back in India, in Pune. Here also we had done a kind of a concept where you had this paint house on the above, and then we have luxury apartments below with the vertical, well, I would say surrounding gardens for them. So this gives in a urban environment a build relief with this kind of a green spaces inside. So yeah, this was an interesting concept again, that what we had come up with. Then this was an tower again in Chandigarh, which we call it a rotating tower. It doesn't move, but it gives the movement, the aesthetical movement into the tower. And I think it's a very interesting fact about moving this, you know, balconies up there, which creates that movement into the structure, you know. This was the model, what we call it about, and then how the balconies were moving from there. So this was an interesting thing. Then again, and think for Malaysia, what we had done a tower, we call it a water tower, because we wanted to have the movement or the ripple movement of the water, you know. That was what we had designed at that moment. So yeah, so this was some of the two options that what we presented for that project. Then we talk about competitions. Okay, so this was a competition for a opera house in Korea. So an interesting concept, I would like to say, because the national flower of Korea is hibiscus, so it was inspired from hibiscus. And then, you know, for example, if you see this elevation, so it is like a whale coming out of the water. So again, a combination of both these things, which was interesting for opera house. We didn't win the competition, but it was an interesting design, you know, what we had proposed. Well, some of the sections, elevations, as you can see, for the opera house. With each project, with each, I think, thing you master, you know, that project or that learning for that project. So I think this is something important as an architect. We need to learn each time. It's a new journey. Every time it's something that you learn, right from an opera house, right from a residential project, commercial project. So I think, as I say, everything is a new learning at every time. It's a new beginning, you know. So that is what is important for to know in architecture, that it's never boring, you know. Although a lot of hard work and effort, but yeah, worth it. And then this was one of the masterpieces that what we had won for the award for. This was a competition for Taj Mahal. If you heard about, a lot of stories has been there when you, I don't know how many guys have you seen Taj Mahal and been there. So the guide will tell you that, okay, there was this black Taj Mahal in the front, and for Shah Jahan and all these things. So anyhow, so the international competition was that if there was a black Taj existing, how would you design it? So this was the challenge, or this was the concept, you know. So there was a lot of factors. Maybe another day I'll explain you the real concept, the whole concept out of it. But yeah, our project was called the Ghost Taj. So, you know, that is how we came up with the hologram technology, where you can bring alive the Taj as a ghost in the night, you know. So, and apart from that, obviously catering to the urban values and how you can improve the urban aspect of Agra, you know, as a tourist city, you know. So that was something which was very interesting. Apart from that, you can also, you know, create multiple shows and other cultural events, what can be an asset to the Taj Mahal itself, you know, during the evening. So this was something which was very interesting. Then this was another project that what we had was with a CC museum, again coming back to the CC Villa, which I presented before. So this was again a competition. So this was an interesting structure. What we had taken the inspiration is from mushrooms and from the trees, no, and how the structure works for the trees. So this was very interesting structure. Again, a research done on how the petal work can be used, how the structuring is inside the tree, and, you know, the microstructuring of it is very important. So this was again an interesting fact what we had checked at that moment. Then landscaping. Some of the projects, as I said, were mostly residential projects, and we don't have all the projects here because still we are developing some new projects there. Then some urban spaces, you know, that what makes it, because Madrid doesn't have a beach, so, you know, we had to give this kind of spaces because they like a lot of beach life. So, you know, we had to bring the beach life into the urban pockets. So this was one of the projects. Some residential projects there. Then interior and styling, what we call it. Again, some of the commercial projects that what we have here. Yeah, some units for the students there. Student apartments into the building, one of the projects that I had presented before. So this was a model for that. Some of the interior projects there. I'm just browsing through, you know, quickly because I think just to make it on time, the presentation. So yeah, this was one of the home staging, I would say, or rather I would say, and project where we call it a styling project. Okay, so this was also something we do. Yeah. Then again, for the this vertical gardening, what we had done into other departments, this was the high-end kind of a interior designer at that moment. So what we had done, you know, yeah. Well, so that was it. I just made quick as much as possible about the whole presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope that you guys have taken something from that journey, right from thinking about an architecture, thinking about a university, to the journey of an entrepreneur. And I think this is what we are doing today. Until now, obviously, it's a never-ending process. But yeah, so this was my journey. I'm sure I was really privileged today to share this with you guys. To look back, as I said before, it was a good review for myself. So yeah, I'm sure that architecture is way beyond this, and this is my personal learning, of course. This is one of the experiences that I can talk about. But yeah, this was the journey, and I think this was something which I could talk about today.
Wow, sir, that was truly an amazing presentation by you.
Thank you.
Sir, I have received a few questions from the students attending the guest
Yeah.
lecture. I
Yes.
request you to please allow me to put the questions in front of you so that all of us can get enlightened on the subjects taught by you even more.
Please. Yeah,
Okay.
sure. Thank you.
So the first question is from Pratit, who's a third year student.
Yeah.
He says, Sir, does your design depict your journey from Pune to Madrid within them? Is both East and West blended in your work?
Yes, I would say that. Absolutely, because I think it's a very unconscious process that you follow when you are working into architecture. And as I said before, that you need to look back, and if you really look back, and if you know that, okay, this has been an unconscious process, that you have taken these elements of vernacular architecture. As I said, that back in India, for example, working with Shirish sir has taught me a lot about vernacular architecture. And I think an extension of that, doing research with the nature, with the Servant Pio's architects, and then applying it to my practice. So I would truly agree with that interesting thought, Indo. So I think this was a kind of a journey which blends from India to Spain. And again, I say that this is something which is a never-ending process. So what you learn back in India, at least for me, it will always reflect in my design, to the fact of learning and also doing projects here. So that is something, yes, it does reflect. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you. So the second question is from Shruti Kokne, who's a first year student. She says, what drives you to keep going when it's really tough?
Okay, one thing, if you have heard about, when you talk about my hobbies, so I think one of my hobbies really focuses on designing, and brainstorming, So when it comes to designing, because I find inner peace, in me when I'm designing. I would say that there is no such feeling, that at least for me, that I feel so satisfied, and I feel so I would say a wow, no, how a studio color is nice, the wow designer. So I feel very wow when I design things. So what keeps my inspiration on at tough times is thinking about the designing, thinking about the process itself. So I think there is no satisfaction like that, no matter what, when it comes to the designing part of the inspiration. I think that what makes me always keep inspired and keep going, the designing itself. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Sir, the third question is from Parul, a third year student. She says, what was the major interesting change, or maybe say something that is totally different that you experienced in terms of your field of architecture throughout your journey from Pune to Madrid? Something
Do you
that you experienced differently on your journey.
I think, I mean, different in the sense, as I said, that if you just talk about the presentation, so as I told, that the journey, I think, different in the sense, it has been not only architecture, but it has been combined with many other elements that you come through your day-to-day life, And I think if you talk about the change, one of the most important change was for me to shift from India to Europe, So I think that change, I would say, was the most impactful change as a person, And then for talking about architecture, I would say the same. I mean, this journey is so well blended, I don't know if I answered the question rightly.
Yes, sir, you did.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
thank you.
So, sir, the last question I would ask, it's from Vanshika from first year. She says, what's something you learned way later than you should have?
Would I learn way later that I should have learned in India, you mean?
Earlier, yes.
Um, I think one thing I always considered back in India, that when you were studying architecture at the university, at your college, what was important for me to understand, which I thought that I should have learned or I should have been exposed before, was the innovative construction technologies. Okay, so I think, and the materials, construction and material are two main factors, I would say, that I think that I should have had exposed before. I would have learned it before. So yes, that was, I think, and I think this is what we talked about also. I was talking to Gauri ma'am, that this is what we need to bring down to the students. We need to, if I can help on this with the student, that how it is important to understand this part early at your career, when you start to experiment, where you are free, free of flying like a bird. So I think that part is an important part, and of course, like that, there are many other elements, but for me personally was the construction, and for the building materials, that was a part. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I hope everybody's questions have been answered. Is there anyone from the audience who would like to ask questions? No one? Okay, then we'll move forward.
I would like to say something. Like the name, exactly like the name of your firm, your presentation was wow.
Thank you, ma'am.
So, so that's the first expression I can give, and I'm really glad that our academic administrator, Dr. Mudbidri, introduced me to you, and uh, it has been really a very good interaction with you all through all these 3 4 interactions which we have had till now. All of them are really wonderful, and I'm really glad to know a person who has achieved so much in 10 years, and being from a humble
Well, but
background in Pune.
the journey is
Yeah,
on,
the
ma'am. The
journey
journey is
is
on.
ongoing. I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
it's ongoing, and you still have to reach heights. But
Still a lot to go. Yeah,
yes, yes, there's a long way to go. But
yeah.
still, whatever you've achieved and your determination and your hard work, that has paid. So I think today's session must have been really, really inspiring for all our students, and it must be a lesson for them that nothing is impossible. If you dream for something, and if you really strive hard to achieve something in life, yes, you can achieve it, but then you have to have persistence, determination, and hard work. These three qualities will definitely help you achieve your dreams in life. And
Absolutely.
to let you know, all of you know, we are discussing certain points where we are trying to collaborate with Viraj sir for some lectures, and there are many more aspects to that collaboration, and I'm hopeful that all of those will be fulfilled, and will soon collaborate for more and more fruitful interactions, and all my students and my entire team is looking forward to it. And thank you so much for sparing your time, valuable time, and inspiring my students. So thanks a lot on behalf of my entire team, my students, and my university. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I think it was, as I said, it was a pleasure and honor for me, to look back into my journey. And I think this was a review for myself. And then, yes, I did think about many elements as I presented it, not only through architecture, but also through the other personal things which I could give inputs to the students today. Maybe I learned it through my journey in the 10 years, but maybe these inputs might help the students today to understand that. I mean, because people will ask, what is the formula? So I think it is a very personal formula for everyone.
Yes.
There are different ways, somehow to reach to a point. But I think what I can, if I can contribute, if I can, give something back, I can say something that yes, this happened and it's true, which I can through we can access it through my experience. So I think this is what is important for the students to understand, that yes, do believe in them, try to be, I mean, like since my early stage in my at my university also, I would say, somehow, I never had this kind of restrictions. I mean, it was sometimes being put by the professors, or sometimes, they would, discard your vague ideas. But then I think you somehow inside, you need to have that urge and you need to believe in them. And I think that is the important fact, that this is the moment, especially for the students when you're at the university, that you need to do experimentation. You need to go beyond. You need to go out of your comfort zone. Then only
Absolutely.
you can
Absolutely.
reach and you can move to the next stage, because otherwise it's a very typical game. And I think this is not something which we are looking forward for. I think India is a very young country. It is a very bright country, and I think the right skills, as the Symbiosis University says, the skills university, I think the right skills have to be put into those students. And I think that is an important fact that I would say for the student, that you need to keep a check on these factors. And today, I would say also with globalization, with the internet especially, that everything you can learn very, very close from a distance, to other things. So I think this is an advantage for today's generation, I would say, as compared to my generation, or I'm sure the generation before that, that was a kind of a limitation what we had. But today, with the internet, with all the, I would say, global economy of digitalization. So I think this all has been a very game-changing factor in architecture. And I think if you need to keep up with it, if you need to reach at some point where you can think that yes, you're doing something innovative, something new, that is through research and analysis. And then not only that, but also reflecting into your practice. It takes effort, I know, and it takes hard work to, and also you need to believe in them in the way of taking the risk. So yes, that is also one fact, that
Absolutely.
there is a big risk in everything what we do. But
Yeah.
don't be fearful, don't be, I mean, I also had a lot of failures at some point in some things. So that's okay, that will just make you grow, that just will make you learn. So this is the story what I have shown you today. Obviously it is the progress, but also there has been failure, there has been some points that, where you took some wrong decisions or so on. That's okay, but that is again a learning, because if that would not have happened, the other side doesn't happen, and that is the reason both goes hand in hand. So yes, so thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, the whole team, and of course Ishika and the students. Please, if any questions, doubts, do let me know, and I'm looking forward for more conversations, wherever I can share my knowledge, experience, wherever I can, give that mentoring class to you guys. I will also learn with you guys. So thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for an excellent presentation and for making this webinar a very meaningful and interesting one. I would also thank our beloved Director, Ma'am, Dr. Gauri Shirkar, our faculty members, and their continuous guidance and moral support. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll connect with you later.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye. And it's been live on YouTube as well. So I'll share the link with you so that you can share it with your contacts as well.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah.
Have a good day. Bye.
Yeah. Good day, guys. You can log off, but don't forget to prepare one-pager report on today's and yesterday's guest lectures and submit it by tomorrow morning.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Bye.
Can we end it?
Yes, yes, please.
Thank you, ma'am.